Hi YouTube leather workers. Today I'm going to be going over how I built my power electric burnisher for free. Maybe you guys can build one too. What you see in front of you, this happens to be an old refrigerator motor. I got this given to me for free. It didn't look like this when I got it. It was in an old shed for who knows how long, covered with dirt and grime and filth. No plug on the end of it, of course just a straight shaft coming out the end. My guess is this was probably a 1950s vintage motor because it is all cast iron. That makes it very heavy and also makes it perfect for using as a burnisher. The modern stuff out there is made out of, the motor housings are all stamped metal now, much thinner, much lighter. Another clue that this is an old motor is it has manual boiler cups, so it does not have sealed bearings or anything. But this is so heavy I don't even need to have it bolted down. I put a piece of foam on the bottom of it just so it wouldn't scratch any place where I put it, and it is heavy enough I can burnish my leather and do things, and this thing doesn't move. All I did to this motor, it didn't spin entirely freely when I got it, so I made sure it was all cleaned up. I used compressed air, blew out any junk that was inside the motor, dust, dirt, everything. Cleaned it really well, oiled it really well, put a plug on it, and it spins very nice, very freely, and there's really no play in the shaft or anything. So perfect free motor find. This happens to be an old Delco motor. The next thing I did is I needed to make a burnisher. People are selling these burnishers made out of all kinds of exotic hardwoods and things, cocobolo, they're $7,500. You don't need that. You can go to Home Depot. If you don't have a lot of tools, you can go to Home Depot and buy hardwood dowel rod. 1.5 inch piece of hardwood dowel rod would be enough to make this. And I'm going to go over the way that I made it, and then I'm going to go over some alternative ways for people who might not have access to some of the tools that I have. I happen to have a wood lathe and a metal lathe, and what I did was I made mine out of oak because I happen to have some oak branches laying around. So I turned down an oak branch and put some grooves in it. What I would do next time if I made another one of these, I would make the end come down to basically a point, a much finer taper point, because this is the way I made it. It's a little bit too big to get into some nooks and crannies that I want to get into. But along the shaft you want to make different size grooves in here, different widths and so forth, and you want them to be cup-shaped, like a U-shaped thing. So you don't just want to go in with a straight tool and make a straight sidewall. You want to make these all cupped in various different widths. I tried to go from say about 1/8 of an inch up to maybe 3/8 of an inch or so. And I even made different radius. This one has a much larger radius on it than this one does. You might want to make two side-by-side grooves too if you're doing pieces that like I do these holsters, and I don't always burnish ahead of time, so sometimes I want to do like this part of the holster and I'll put it in these grooves and do both sides at once. And so what I did is I turned this on my wood lathe. I then chucked this up in my metal lathe and drilled a hole. And the reason I used my metal lathe is because I knew I was going to be able to drill a perfectly centered hole down there. The result is there's no run out. As you can see as I spin this slowly, there's no run out on this shaft. It's perfectly concentric, and that's what you want. And you want to drill your hole very, very slightly smaller than the shaft on your motor. This is basically just press fit onto the shaft of this motor, and it was a very good press fit. So I've had no problems with it slipping or anything like that. Now I'm going to fire this up and show it to you working, doing the edges of a holster there, and we'll go from there. Okay, we're back. I've got you at kind of an overhead angle so you can see here. We've got our leather. I've edged along the edges here we want to go ahead and wet those edges down. I'm just going to do this side here for a demo. Turn my motor on. Pick a groove that fits the whole piece in there. Now I know some people use gum trag. I've never done that, so this is how I do mine. Important to keep this edge wet as you're doing this. You can see how it's smoothing out. I don't know if this is gonna focus well enough to show. Probably not. But what you want is for those two edges to blend together. I don't know if you can see that. Starting to get a shine on it, and the two edges are blending, and you can't see a line anymore. What I do after this stage is I'll grab a chunk of beeswax, go over this edge with some beeswax, and then run it through as like a final polish, and that's all there is to it. So again, I built this for free. I'm going to power down the motor here to see how smooth it is. Very smooth. Alternative ways that you can do this, if you don't have the lathes, what you can do is take your hardwood dowel and drill your hole first. Find the center of the dowel as much as possible. Drill your hole, and you can use some type of shaft if you want to. Maybe you don't even have a motor. You want to mount this on a drill press, say. Put a bolt in there. Cut the head off the bolt. Shove it in there. Put some epoxy in with it. Once it dries thoroughly, you can chuck that up in your drill press. And you can cut these grooves using any number of different things. A simple file. You can use a Dremel, whatever, to cut these things in and use this in your drill press if you don't have a motor. Or your hand drill. You can put it in a hand drill. So there's all kinds of ways that you can do this, and you've seen people use different methods, I'm sure, on YouTube. There's guys with drill press burnishers. There's plenty of videos on those out there. But if you can do this, if you can get it a concentric hole mounted on your motor shaft, it works really, really great. I couldn't be happier with this for a free project. It took me, it probably only took me a couple hours of time to make this, and it was well worth it. That's it. Thanks.